Imagine this. It's 2 a.m. Your phone lights up. Another text, another accusation, another demand to know where you are, who you're with, why you haven't responded in the last 20 minutes. Your stomach used to drop when you saw their name on your screen. Your hands used to shake as you typed out explanations, apologies for things you didn't do, reassurances that you've given 1,000 times before. You used to sleep with your phone next to your pillow, terrified of missing their message and facing the silent treatment, the guilt trip, the explosion of rage that would follow. But tonight you see the notification, you read the message, and you set your phone down, face down, silent, and you go back to sleep. The next morning there are 17 more messages, a mix of anger, accusations, then suddenly sweetness. I'm sorry, I was just worried about you. You know I love you. Why are you doing this to me? And you realize something that changes everything. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them your peace. You don't owe them anything. There's a moment every narcissist secretly fears. It's not when you fight back. It's not when you cry or beg or try to explain yourself one more time. No. It's the moment you stop reacting. When you no longer chase, when you no longer explain, when you no longer defend who you are to someone who refuses to see you. That's the exact second they realize they've lost control. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, once said something profound. What you resist persists, but what you accept transforms. And when an empath accepts their power, when they stop resisting their own truth and finally embrace who they truly are, the narcissist doesn't just lose control. They disappear. Not physically, perhaps, but energetically, emotionally, psychologically, they become irrelevant. Today, we're going to explore one of the most powerful psychological transformations you'll ever witness. What happens when a narcissist realizes you're too strong to control? We're going to dive deep into Carl Jung's revolutionary insights about the shadow self, projection, and individuation. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why your awakening is their greatest fear. Because you're not weak for having loved them. You're not naive for having tried. You're powerful beyond measure for finally choosing yourself. Let's begin. Before we can understand what happens when a narcissist loses control, we need to understand how they gain it in the first place. Narcissists don't survive on love. They don't thrive on genuine connection or mutual respect. They survive on control, emotional control, mental control, energetic control. Control is their oxygen. Without it, they suffocate. And their favorite targets? Empaths. Deeply feeling souls. Forgiving hearts, compassionate spirits who see the good in everyone and believe that love can heal all wounds. If you're watching this video, chances are you're one of them. Carl Jung understood this dynamic on a level that was decades ahead of his time. He described a psychological phenomenon called projection, where one person unconsciously takes their own unacceptable feelings, traits, or impulses and attributes them to someone else. In simpler terms, the narcissist projects their inner darkness onto you and you begin to carry it as your own. They make you feel like you're too sensitive, too emotional, too demanding, too much, when in reality they're the ones who are empty, fragile, and desperately afraid of their own inadequacy. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But the narcissist never does this inner work. They never look in the mirror. Instead, they hand you that mirror and convince you that everything wrong in the relationship is your reflection." And here's where it gets particularly insidious. The empath, because of their deep capacity for compassion, doesn't just accept this projection. They internalize it. They start to believe it. They become the emotional caretaker, the fixer, the one who's always apologizing, always trying harder, always walking on eggshells. The narcissist creates a dynamic where you're always explaining yourself, you're always proving your love, you're always second-guessing your own reality, you're always feeling like you're not enough. This is called gaslighting. This is called emotional manipulation. This is called psychological abuse. And it works because empaths have a fatal flaw. They believe everyone has a heart like theirs. Jung called this the shadow, the unconscious part of the personality that contains everything we refuse to acknowledge about ourselves. The narcissist has a massive shadow, but they never integrate it. Instead, they project it outward, and the empath absorbs it like a sponge. The empath becomes the container for the narcissist's shame, rage, insecurity, and fear, until something changes, until the empath wakes up. There comes a moment in every empath's journey when something shifts. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it happens in the middle of the night when you're lying awake, replaying conversations in your mind for the 1,000th time. Sometimes it happens when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and don't recognize the exhausted, dimmed version of yourself staring back. Sometimes it's a single sentence they say. One more lie, one more deflection, one more accusation, and something inside you just clicks. The empath begins to notice the manipulation. The patterns become clear. The gaslighting that made you question your own memory, the guilt-tripping that made you responsible for their emotions, the emotional drain that left you empty while they seemed energized by your pain, the cycle of idealization and devaluation that kept you constantly off balance. You start to see that no matter what you do, it's never enough. No matter how much you give, they always want more. No matter how much you shrink yourself, they still need you smaller. And then comes the most liberating realization of all. You stop trying to fix them. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the psychological journey toward becoming a whole, authentic individual. It's when a person begins to reclaim their energy from the shadow of others, when they stop living their life through someone else's expectations and start honoring their own truth. Jung knew the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and for the empath who's been lost in the narcissist's hall of mirrors, individuation means coming home to themselves. It means trusting your own perception again, honoring your own feelings again, setting boundaries without guilt, saying no without explanation, choosing peace over proving yourself right. The empath's silence becomes their power. You stop engaging with the drama. You stop defending yourself against false accusations. You stop trying to make them understand you, see you, value you. Because you finally understand something profound. Their inability to see your worth has nothing to do with your worth. Their need to diminish you has nothing to do with your actual size. Their projection of darkness onto you has nothing to do with your light. When you stop feeding their ego, when you stop reacting, defending, explaining, chasing, they starve. And that's when everything changes. That's when the narcissist realizes, this one got away. This one figured it out. This one is too strong to control. Now here's where things get interesting and potentially intense. Narcissists can't handle losing control. It's not just uncomfortable for them, it's existentially threatening. Remember, the narcissist's entire identity is built on a false self, a carefully constructed persona designed to hide the wounded, inadequate, shame-filled core they refuse to acknowledge. Jung described this as the persona, the social mask we wear to navigate the world. For most people, the persona is just one aspect of personality, something we can take on and off as needed. But for the narcissist, the persona is their entire identity. Behind it, emptiness, fragmentation, terror. And you, the empath who once validated their false self, who once provided endless supply, who once made them feel powerful and important, you were essential to maintaining that illusion. When you withdraw your energy, When you stop playing your role in their psychological drama, their entire system goes into crisis mode. So what does the narcissist do when they realize you're too strong to control? They panic, they manipulate harder, they play the victim, they rage, they try every tactic in their playbook to pull you back in. You might hear things like, "You've changed. You're not the person I fell in love with." Translation: "You're no longer controllable, and I don't like it. You're so cold now. You used to be so warm and loving." Translation: "You've stopped giving me endless emotional supply, and I'm not getting what I need. You think you're better than me now, don't you?" Translation: "Your strength is reflecting my inadequacy back to me, and I can't handle it. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me?" Translation: "I expected you to stay trapped in obligation and guilt, and you're not following the script. You're being selfish. You're only thinking about yourself." Translation: "You're prioritizing your well-being over my control, and that's unacceptable to me." They might launch what's called a Hoover, named after the vacuum cleaner, because they're trying to suck you back in. They might suddenly become the person you always wanted them to be, apologetic, vulnerable, promising to change. They might love bomb you with affection and attention. Or they might go the opposite direction. Smear campaigns, character assassination, turning others against you, making you out to be the villain in a story they've completely fabricated. Jung understood this dynamic deeply. When the narcissist sees your strength, your calm, your boundaries, your refusal to be manipulated, they're forced to face their own weakness. Your detachment mirrors their own emptiness back to them, and they hate it. Because for perhaps the first time in their life, they're seeing themselves clearly in someone else's response to them. They're seeing that their tactics don't work. They're seeing that their power was always an illusion maintained by your participation. This is why they often become more dangerous during this phase. Not physically necessarily, though that can happen and should be taken seriously, but emotionally and psychologically they escalate. Because if they can't control you through love bombing, they'll try guilt. If they can't control you through guilt, they'll try rage. If they can't control you through rage, they'll try playing the victim. If they can't control you at all, they'll try to destroy your reputation, your peace, your sense of reality itself. But here's what you need to understand. This reaction isn't about you, it's about them. Their panic is proof of your power. Their rage is proof of their fear. Their desperate attempts to pull you back are proof that you've already won. Because the only power they ever had was the power you gave them, and you've taken it back. Let's talk about what real strength actually looks like. Because there's a misunderstanding that many empaths carry. They think getting stronger means becoming harder. They think protecting themselves means becoming cold, closed off, cynical. That's not strength. That's just another form of protection. That's the wounded self building walls instead of boundaries. Carl Jung understood that true strength comes from integration, not rejection. He wrote, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." True strength in the context of dealing with a narcissist doesn't mean fighting back. It doesn't mean matching their energy or trying to make them see what they've done. It doesn't mean explaining yourself one more time or hoping they'll finally understand. True strength means refusing to be controlled. Period. It means not taking the bait. When they try to provoke you, you don't respond with emotion. You respond with calm clarity, or you don't respond at all. Not seeking closure from them. You understand that closure is something you give yourself, not something they can provide. They'll never admit the full truth. They'll never give you the apology that matches the harm. Waiting for it keeps you stuck. Not needing them to understand you. This is huge. The moment you stop trying to be understood by someone who's invested in misunderstanding you, that's when you become untouchable. Setting boundaries without explanation. Strong empaths don't argue, prove, or beg. They simply state their boundary and enforce it. I'm not available for this conversation. I won't be engaging with this behavior. I'm choosing to step back from this relationship. Walking away with peace, not rage. You're not leaving because you hate them. You're leaving because you love yourself. There's a massive difference. Jung believed that real power comes from integrating both the light and the shadow, acknowledging all parts of ourselves, including the parts that were hurt, the parts that made mistakes, the parts that stayed too long. You're not weak for having cared. You're not naive for having tried. You're not broken for having been manipulated. You're human. You're compassionate. You're real. And those qualities, the very qualities the narcissist exploited, are actually your greatest strengths. The difference now is that you're directing that compassion towards someone who actually deserves it, yourself. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." This is the work of the awakened empath, accepting that you were targeted not because you're weak, but because you're powerful. Accepting that your kindness was real, even if it was misused. Accepting that you deserve the same love you've been giving others. When you do this inner work, when you integrate your shadow, when you reclaim your energy, when you stand in your authentic power, something remarkable happens. The narcissist becomes irrelevant. Not through anger or revenge or making them suffer, but through your genuine indifference. You're not thinking about them anymore. You're not checking their social media. You're not rehearsing conversations in your head. You're not waiting for them to realize what they lost. You're simply living your life, healing, growing, becoming. And that is the ultimate power move. The strongest empaths don't argue, prove, or beg. They walk away with peace. They trust their own worth. They know that anyone who can't see their value doesn't deserve access to their energy. The moment you stop trying to be understood by the wrong person, you become untouchable by them. The moment you stop needing external validation, you become unshakable. The moment you realize that your peace is more valuable than their presence, you become free. This is what Jung meant by individuation. This is what it looks like when an empath awakens to their full power. And it's beautiful. Carl Jung spent his entire life exploring the depths of the human psyche. He studied the shadow, the persona, the anima and animus, the collective unconscious. He understood human nature at a level that was truly extraordinary. And one of his most profound insights was this: our greatest wounds become our greatest teachers. Jung wrote, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort." The narcissist was your shadow teacher. Not because they were supposed to hurt you, not because the abuse was deserved or necessary or some kind of cosmic lesson you needed to learn, but because in the process of surviving them, you were forced to confront parts of yourself you'd been avoiding. Your tendency to abandon yourself for others, your pattern of seeking validation externally, your difficulty saying no, your fear of conflict, your belief that love means suffering. The narcissist didn't teach you these things consciously. They simply exposed the wounds that were already there. And now, you have a choice. You can remain bitter, angry, victimized by what happened. You can let their toxicity define the rest of your story. Or you can do what Jung would encourage: integrate the shadow, transform the pain into wisdom, become someone who not only survived, but evolved. Jung taught that the shadow, once faced, becomes your greatest teacher. Every manipulation you endured taught you to recognize manipulation. Every boundary they violated taught you why boundaries are sacred. Every time they made you doubt yourself, you learned the value of trusting yourself. Every moment you lost yourself in their chaos, you discovered how precious your peace is. The narcissist was never your punishment. They were your awakening. And the beautiful irony is this: they wanted to break you, diminish you, control you. They wanted to keep you small, manageable, eternally focused on them. But instead, they inadvertently pushed you into the most powerful transformation of your life. They thought they were the main character in your story. In reality, they were just a chapter. A difficult one, yes. A painful one, absolutely. But still just a chapter in a much larger narrative. the story of you becoming who you were always meant to be. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." So who are you choosing to become? Someone who sees narcissists coming from a mile away? Someone who honors their own needs without guilt? Someone who loves deeply but never at the expense of themselves? Someone who knows their worth isn't determined by who can't see it? This is your individuation. This is your transformation. This is your power. The narcissist will move on to their next target, repeating the same patterns, trapped in the same unconscious loop. They'll never do the inner work. They'll never face their shadow. They'll never become whole. But you? You're breaking cycles. You're healing wounds. You're integrating your shadow and stepping into your light. You're doing what Jung believed was the most important work a human can do: becoming conscious, becoming whole, becoming authentically yourself. And that is something the narcissist can never take from you. If this message resonated with your soul, I want you to know something. You're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not broken. You're an empath who's learning to see clearly, who's learning that loving yourself isn't selfish, it's essential, who's learning that not everyone deserves access to your beautiful, compassionate heart. You're part of a rare kind of person who feels deeply in a world that often numbs, who loves fiercely in a world that often guards, who hopes persistently in a world that often cynics. And you're finally learning to protect that gift, instead of offering it freely to those who would exploit it. Carl Jung's work on the psyche, the shadow, individuation, and human transformation wasn't just academic theory. It was a roadmap for exactly what you're going through right now. His insights into projection, the persona, and the journey toward wholeness are more relevant today than ever. If you're ready to continue this journey, if you want more content on Carl Jung's psychology, empath awakening, narcissistic abuse recovery, and becoming your most authentic, empowered self, then subscribe to this channel. Because the world needs more people like you, people who feel deeply and stand strong, people who've been through darkness and chose to find their light, people who refuse to let their wounds define them. And remember, the moment the narcissist realized you were too strong to control wasn't the moment you became strong. You were always strong. It was simply the moment you stopped hiding it. Welcome to your awakening. Welcome to your power. Welcome home to yourself.